and it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
Hello and welcome back to episode number 4 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Ronan Groome, I just have a couple of days left of being a single man.
Couple of days left of freedom.
Ronan Groome, this episode, I suppose it might be a little bit shorter than usual. We're going to look back, I suppose, at the week that was, have a look at our selections to date, give a performance of the week, and then give our selections. You'll be able to see our selections to date. Wasn't such a proud moment last week for myself when Sporting John disappointed. I did put him up at 20-1 for the stairs hurdle before the handicap at on Friday there at Cheltenham. But you can see our selections below, running across the bottom bar. But Ronan Groome, first of all, how are you?
Good. Probably less stressed than you are at the moment, Basil. But all good. Could have done with a better weekend punting, but one of those weekends where the horses that you're backed went off at shorter prices, came there looking like they're going to win, and then just didn't get there. So what can you do? These weekends happen, I guess. So we'll go again next week. Absolutely.
And I suppose in terms of a recap, the big race of the weekend, we had a good Irish challenge. Well, I felt we did anyway going into the race. The international hurdle, Ballyadam and Heaven Help Us. Of course, we spoke to Paul Hennessy, who brought over Heaven Help Us on the Thursday show. But what did you make of the race long term? She's probably the horse to take it out of it, isn't she? For probably the mare's hurdle.
Potentially, yeah. She just got a bit tapped for toe, maybe coming down the hill, and stayed on then to be fourth. Although she was well held by the top three, who probably aren't top level when we're talking about champion hurdle horses. But the winner is a young kind of improving horse. He was a decent enough novice last season without pulling up many trees, and he's obviously progressed a lot this season. So I guess the one big takeaway you take from the race, Barry, is if you're a Buzz fan, I think we have a few of them below who have taken prices by him for the stairs. They've obviously finished. They were second and third to him. Song for Someone and Guard Your Dreams were second and third to him in the Ascot hurdle, and they've obviously finished first and second here. So that's quite a big step up in form for him. So you wouldn't really look at the international hurdle as a potential champion hurdle. I'm sure Honeysuckle's connections aren't really losing any sleep about the race, but the winners go in the right direction and could have a say in other grade twos in Britain this season, I'd say, going forward.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed with Ballyadam, actually, to be fair. I thought thought it was interesting that Henry brought him over, and I did think that the Irish. Someone asked me what was my nap on a Saturday, because I did nap Sporting John on the Friday, but it was probably Ireland to win the international hurdle, which didn't happen. But I was impressed with the run from Heaven Help Us. I think the plan is to go back to the mare's hurdle. She's a big old price for that, Ronan. I think it's 33-1. I thought was the best price out there. In terms of performance of the week, Ronan Groome, who you got with?
Yeah, there's a couple. There was most of the big races were handicaps who aren't necessarily going to produce a real kind of grade one contender for Cheltenham at the moment. Though Cool Cody was very good in the Paddy Power, clocked a really good time there as well. So I'd be interested in him now going forward for the other 2.5 mile race at Cheltenham. Potentially he could be Paddy Power play horse again, though he will be off a career high. Just mention a few very quickly. Britska I thought was very good at Fairyhouse. Won a juvenile hurdle there, maiden hurdle. It's only 66 on the flat, bought for small money, I think, by Gordon. And he's the same connections now as Dufflecoat. Last season he ran up a sequence. Gordon was talking about the Boodles juvenile hurdle for him. So interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously Gordon has to fill the door for the Triumph. 300 through 5, thought they did nicely again. Only beat 2 horses at Doncaster. Didn't jump as well as he could do, but recorded a good time. Interesting to see where he ends up. Is the Reynoldstown was mentioned for him. I think he could develop into a Festival Novices Chase contender. Night Salute was good at Doncaster as well. I thought that's his 4th win now, giving away weight and stayed on nicely. I think he'd be better off back at Cheltenham as well. So I think he's a good contender now for Britain for the Triumph hurdle. And one more, just giving my Drogo a quick mention as well. Wasn't that impressed with him now. If we had time today, we were doing the over and under rate, I'd probably suggest he would probably be the over rate. Didn't jump as, you know, a couple of silly mistakes, landed on the fence up the top there, and yeah, he picked up nicely, but didn't beat that much. So yeah, just a quick run through those four I thought were the most interesting angles with regards to Cheltenham going forward.
Yeah, interesting. Selected performance for myself. I was quite impressed, and I obviously put it up on Twitter. Blue Lord, I was looking forward to seeing him run, but he always shaped to me like a horse that was. He jumped hurdles like a chaser at times, I felt, and being quite keen, I suppose. Even if you look back at the Supreme Novices hurdle, he was very, very keen early in the race, and was running an absolute cracker to finish second to Appreciate It before coming down at the last. But you know, I wouldn't judge him on Punchestown form from last year. I think this lad, even speaking to Darren Jacob last year, he really liked this guy, Blue Lord. So yeah, he'd be one that I suppose I put Magic Days in already for the Arkle, but he was tying with me for this week's show at about 16 to 20 to 1. They're still available for Blue Lord for the Arkle, and I just think all the talk is about Appreciated. You know, I suppose we haven't even seen him over a fence yet. Fernie Hollow the same. You know, what distance will they even end up? I think Blue Lord, to me, he looks like a horse that, I suppose, over the minimum trip over fences, the way he jumps his fences. Townend commented, I suppose that was his first ride back, so it was great to see Paul back, but the way he was just hungry for the next fence, and you could see that. I think apart from one bit of a hairy moment, I think it was 3 out, whereas he just overreached for it. I think his jumping in the main was excellent. So he's one I can't wait to see again. I suppose hopefully in the Racing Post Novice Chase at Christmas. So yeah, over 2 miles. Look, isn't it? I was impressed with him. I thought it was a good debut from Blue Lord. Ronan Groome, anything else I suppose on that side of things? I suppose I wanted to maybe ask you for a tracker horse over the last week. Is there anything that kind of stuck out for you?
Yeah, he's in my tracker already, to be honest, but Zanza in the Paddy Power look, he's a horse that gets held up and he needs to come flying, and he did come flying. He just came flying too late. I'm just convinced there's a big handicap chasing him. He's going to be one of those cliff horses for me. I think he's probably still well handicapped off whatever he is. I think he's 1-4, 147 or 148. Maybe he'd be better off at a track like where there's maybe a stronger collective speed up front, where he can. Where I think Cheltenham can favour a front runner, as Cool Cody has shown at both times this season. He's gone from the front and Midnight Shadow, and he's just got going too late. Zanza had to make ground, but he fairly flew home there, and I'm just convinced that he's got a big race in him off 147 for Philip Hobbs. So yeah, I'll be re-entering him again in my tracker, Barry.
You've kind of mentioned him a couple of times, haven't you? He's had a bit of a love affair with this Zanza. He ran a good race, to be fair. My tracker horse actually was in the same race, and I was absolutely mightily impressed with the run of Dayran the Carjack. And it was a big old price. He was 18 to 1 for the Paddy Power, and he was always the horse, even since his novice chase days, that I liked over fences. He's only actually rated £1 higher, 133, but I thought his run was eye-catching. He was making good ground. Made a mistake, I think it was at the second last, so it kind of maybe stopped his momentum. But he was been ridden, I suppose, quietly by Brendan Powell. And he was catching the eye, because all the main contenders were up front. You had your Midnight Shadow, your Cool Cody. They all turned the bend and they were up there prominent throughout, but he was ridden quietly in behind. And look, he stayed on to finish 5th in the end, but it was an eye-catching run, I felt. The mistake probably scuppered his chances, but off a mark of 133, I think he'd be winning races over fences. He's 132 over hurdles, but that's Alan King's Dayran the Carjack. I quite like him now for a handicap chase, maybe later on in the season. Ronan Groome, anything for the Stewards Room? I'm going to bypass this week. Anything for you?
No, it's quite one this week now, so we'll keep it going. But there will be times now. I keep saying that, but there will be times when we have to pull a few people in later on the season.
Dragging him into the Stewards Room. You might be dragging me in after Saturday. Okay, Ante-Post Selection. Ronan Groome, before we kind of go through our selections for this week, I wanted to just look at the portfolio. Look, I have to own up to a couple of howlers here, so you can see mine across the bottom. I suppose I'll start. Mighty Potter, 25-1 for the Supreme. I did say that on last week's show. That's not dead. I'm looking forward to seeing him over 2 miles at Christmas. And I think a faster run 2 miles on softer ground. I will be looking forward to seeing him on his hurdle start, and that's not dead for me. And Jermaine, team captain 5-1. That's probably my best shout to date. Magic Days for the Arkle. She disappointed me in Cork. I loved her chasing her second start over fences. Thought she was very good at Cork. She disappointed me. 20-1 for the Arkle. I wouldn't say it's totally dead yet. I think she ran below par last time, so. But I was disappointed with her. And Sporting John was my nap of the weekend last weekend, and it was just one that I came out the wrong side of when it comes to JP. I'm not sure about the ride, not sure about the run, but I'm not sure he's going to be a stayers hurdle horse. 20-1, I have him in there. I see Champ. I might have got it wrong, lads, because Champ is going back over hurdles in the long distance, so he could be the JP one for the stayers hurdle. And that actually is interesting this weekend to see him run in the long distance. I was saying earlier, I said there'll be no long distance hurdle for me on Saturday run. It'll be the long walk up the aisle or down the aisle. Talk to me about your selections.
Yeah, so first off, I started with Ellie May, and she was disappointing in her first start at Aintree. Wouldn't give up on her, but obviously not an ideal start. We'll see what happens there. I have Statuaire as well. I'm expecting her to run in the Grade 1 Novices Hurdle at Christmas, so that'll sort her out and see where she's at. I did Rivière de Tel, which I'm happy enough with now. I think she was pretty smart still. That obviously hasn't run since I've tipped her. But I think she goes for the Racing Post Novices at Leopardstown at Christmas, so that'll sort her out and see where she's at. And I'm trying to think of the other one I had. I'm waiting for it to come up there on the bottom.
You need to start updating the track in the comments as well. Go on.
My captain, of course, is Alaho. I have to be pretty happy with him. Obviously, all out to win the John Durkin, but he's a shorter price now for the Ryanair, and I think he's pretty solid. So okay portfolio so far, but a lot of water to go under the bridge, as I say, Basil.
Absolutely. Go on. Give us your selection. Are you going with one selection, 2 selections? What are you doing this week?
I'm going for 2 selections. I'm going for Saint Felician. I mentioned him before last week. I want to back him to win a race at Cheltenham Market. If that's all right with you, I'm on the rules there. I can get two prices about him for that. 8-1. I just think this is a nice novice, he's not a novice, but he's going to end up a nice prospect for a handicap hurdle potentially at Cheltenham. He runs, I believe, on New Year's Eve. Gordon was saying that there's a race from there on New Year's Eve, and I think he could win that, and Gordon could have a fair idea what mark he's going to be and hold him back, maybe for the Martin Pipe, maybe for the Coral Cup, maybe for the County Hurdle, something like that. And if he doesn't do that, he can run him in the Red Mills and manage his handicap mark that way as well. So I think he could be a nice horse there. Did a nice time on his first run. Gordon loves him, and I just want to get him on side. And I'm going to play a long range effort, Barry, as well. You sold me big time on Heaven Help Us. I didn't know she was 33-1 shot for the Mayor's Hurdle. That just seems big to me straight off the mark. You know, when you hear a price, you just think that's a big price. Even when I was listening to you speak to Paul Hennessy, even mentioned the same link of the previous winner, Black Tears, obviously ran well in the Coral Cup the year before and then came back and won the Mayor's Hurdle. That's 2.5 miles, the same distance around Cheltenham. And as you said, I think she ran okay over the 2 miles in the International. plan is to come back for the 2.5 miles. She's obviously got that form there. And just looking at the race, Barry, looking at the top of the market there, I mean, Concertista's gone over fences already. Black Tears, I'm not even sure she's still around. Only one bookmaker has her up, actually. Yeah, I think she's retired. She wears it well. We need to see her again. She hasn't ran in ages and probably a bit overrated, to be honest, because she's only done kind of one thing, that grade 3 hurdle where she was good, but a lot to prove for me. Tell me something, girl, now I'm a fan of. I'll be monitoring her. She was one of my early picks, my personal picks for an Ante-Post bet way back after March last season. So we'll see what happens. But 33-1 for Heaven Help Us, Barry. You can't get away from that.
Interesting. Good man. Best to look at that one. Yeah, it's kind of one of those weeks. I'm kind of looking at, will I get a shorter one in this week? But I think that I'm going to stick to the team of 20-1. I'm going to keep them all at 20-1 before Christmas anyway. And there's a horse entered this week for Willie Mullins on Thursday. I absolutely loved them last year. He didn't. He raced at the Punchestown Festival in a handicap of 132. He then flashy entries at Cheltenham, like the county hurdle, etc. He's only a 5-year-old by Manduro. Capadano, another JP horse, into the team. Yeah, he's entered over fences, over two miles and 3 furlongs at Naas this week, and he's one for me that I always kind of had in mind for something like a national hunt chase. So I think I was reading the Willie Mullins stable tour early in the season, and he said every jockey just wants to ride this. He's just a big, old-fashioned, laid-back. He does things so easily. If you look back at his win last year at Punchestown, he won off a mark of 132. That was only his second run over 3 miles, and the ears were a prick. This horse, I'd say, has a fair engine now. He is a 5-year-old. He's entries at Christmas over 2.5 miles. I think he's entered at Limerick. It'll be interesting to see, is that the route they go with him. You do need to obviously get a couple of runs in before going to something like a national hunt chase. But at 20-1, I think he may represent value, and were he to come out and do the business this week, I've no doubt, or even run well, I've no doubt he'll contract in price. So I'm going to put him into the team at 20-1. Ronan Groome, Capadano, and when he said every jockey wants to ride him in the yard, probably the one that will want to ride him is Patrick Mullins. So look, as I said, he had a rating of 147 following his victory at Punchestown over hurdles. This lad is every inch a chaser. And he has had a bit of experience, albeit not in great company last year. Good novice hurdle experience last year, 6 runs in total. So I went 20-1 Capadano, the national hunt chase. As I say, I'm keeping it to 20-1 or higher before Christmas if I can. And let's hope we can kind of get maybe 1 or 2 shorter ones in ahead of the Christmas period next week, Ronan, on the show. It'll be Monday. I probably will have a hangover. You probably have one as well, to be fair. But that was an enjoyable kind of a shorter episode this week, Ronan Groome. Any learnings from yourself?
Yeah, well, no, I just wanted to say best luck to you, Basil. I probably won't see you now till you're walking up the aisle, as you say, and tell the viewers how you're feeling. What's the process now for the rest of the week? Everything organised and ready to roll?
We've the Zoom call with the priest, Father Paddy Byrne, who actually watches the shows. He's a big a cappella bourgeois fan, actually, Father Paddy Byrne. The surname might give it away, of course, but that Zoom call is on tomorrow. So we've everyone involved in that, and you're going to be hosting the podcast on Thursday night. In my absence.
Yeah, it'll be like that episode of Father Ted where Dougal is left in charge of doing the mass, and Ted comes back and the whole thing is on fire and there's a car over things. So yeah, tune in on Thursday, everyone. See how what a shambles. No, I'm sure it'll be fine. So yeah, looking forward to a good race this Saturday.
There's talks of an Indian actually.
That's an as I was saying to you before, Barry. That's an interesting kind of meal before the night of your wedding. If you're getting nervous at the top of the aisle. I wouldn't want the Indian in me plumbing, I have to say.
Well, let me put it like this: I'll sleep like a lamb. Excuse the pun. See you next week, folks.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a hands full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.